to the cloud. Okay, cool. Well, people are going to start filling in here. It is 7 o'clock. Marvin, how are you doing, sir? We'll start filling in here, and we'll get this thing started, man. We're going to be talking about something important. Obviously, every week I think is important. Everything we build, we're using to build on. But I am currently, because of popular demand, working on an additional course. And one of the things that I really wanted to hit on in that other course, which is going to be specifically for Airbnb and short-term rentals, is really just the negotiation process and some of the things that we can do to improve our chances when negotiating, and just understanding negotiating maybe a little bit better than what we currently might understand it. Hold on 1 second. And so we want to kind of understand, the negotiation process. What are the certain things that we need to be successful at it, and then ways for us to position ourselves. So really understanding what negotiation is basically when two parties are at ends with each other, right? Two parties have their own self-interest, and they're trying to find a common ground. And that's negotiating in any type of situation, whether or not it's business, whether or not it's personal. Whatever is going on. And as a police officer, when we had hostage situations, we had negotiators come out there. One person wants to kill somebody, the other group wants to try to stop them. It's always two people want their own self-interest, and we're trying to bridge that gap to come to some common ground. So there's no difference when it comes to negotiating in business. There's no difference when it comes to negotiating with an Airbnb or with a wholesaler, or with a potential wholesale property. So we really need to figure out, how do we do this? What are some of the skills that are needed to negotiate effectively, so that we can have the best chance of actually getting the property under contract, okay? Or, getting what we want. So effective verbal communication is obviously one of the top things. Being able to effectively communicate with someone to get your point across, so it doesn't come off condescending, so it doesn't come off vulgar, so it doesn't come off like you're too brash or too harsh, but so that the other end can receive it, okay, is definitely a big thing. So also being able to listen, but not just listen, but active listening. Some people might have heard of the term active listening, but what does that actually mean? So active listening, being able to pick up signs and cues from what the speaker is actually telling you. I told you guys, I think maybe the last class or the one before, where I did an interview with the virtual assistant, and I acted like my grandmother passed away and left me the house, and she didn't pick up on that because she's not actively listening. She didn't pick up on that too, that my grandmother passed away, and that she should probably send her condolences or at least acknowledge it, right? So she wasn't active listening. We have to be able to active listening. That's a skill that sometimes goes unchecked. A lot of people do not realize that they're just listening to respond. Anybody ever talk with someone like that? They're just listening to respond. They're not really listening to actually understand your point of view and where they're coming from. If you can do that in negotiating, number one, it builds an immense amount of rapport, but you will find that you will be able to connect with these people and then win them over to your side a lot easier. Active listening is super, super important. Reducing misunderstandings. Okay, reducing misunderstandings are a key part. And one of the ways that we can do this is by prefacing and setting a standard for ourselves. So the way we reduce some of our misunderstandings is, number one, by being able to position ourselves before or ahead of the curve. Okay, what do I mean by this? Okay, a lot of times the seller or the possible tenant, I don't know who's off mute. If you can go back on mute, that'd be great. The seller or the possible landlord, does not understands things because of us. It's our fault. Whoever has G7 NQ, put yourself back on for me, please. If you don't mind. I can't do it. Here we go. All right. Um, so it's when we have a misunderstanding, you have to take responsibility for that, because we didn't do a good enough job of setting or prefacing the confines of why we're there in the meeting. Okay, so here's an example, one that we get all the time. There's a misunderstanding as a wholesaler that that or the seller, the potential seller, misunderstands that we are going to wholesale the property. Okay, that's a misunderstanding. What happens is, if we don't address that misunderstanding at the closing table, they get upset that you just made $10,000 off their property. Okay, all we have to do to get around that misunderstanding is to preface and set it up. And we set it up, or you guys have heard this before. Hey, we can do one of three things. We're either going to fix and flip this property, put it on the open market. We're going to do option 2, which is do a light rehab and then possibly rent it. Or maybe option 3, I can't purchase every single property that I see, but sometimes I'll reach out to other investors, and those other investors will be interested in the property, and we'll work together to get this thing closed. And the best part about it is that they'll pay me a fee for it. So unlike a real estate agent, when the agent takes out their 6% or 7% from your money, this person will pay me, and we'll go in together on this property. Either way, whatever price we agree upon today is the price that you're going to get. Fair enough? So that's just one way of prefacing or foreseeing a problem and handling that problem before it gets there. All right. That's how we help. That's one way of reducing misunderstandings. Okay. Rapport. Building rapport is so key. It is absolutely key. And there's so many different ways that we can do these things. A while ago, about 2-3 months ago, we did an exercise. We'll probably do that exercise again, where I had you guys do our 5-minute drill. If some of you guys were on that call and remember that, where basically for 5 minutes, I just picked 2 people. Maybe I do it today. For 5 minutes, pick 2 random people within the group, and one person was the seller, one person was the wholesaler. And for 5 whole minutes, you had to talk about something besides the property, besides real estate. Okay. So we're going to go into a little bit deeper onto rapport building, how to do that, and some of the things that you can pick up on or key in on to create rapport. But rapport building is huge. Decision making. There's a saying that people love options. They love choices, but they hate decisions. Okay. People love options, but they hate decisions. Options just say, man, I got free will to do this or that. I could take that. I could take this. But hardcore decisions, nobody likes. People don't like decisions for whatever reason. So we know that in negotiations, there has to be a lot of times there's some tough decisions to make. Am I going to sell grandma's property that's been in the family for the last 60 years? That's a tough decision. So understanding that these hard decisions are on the horizon, what can we do to get around those? Again, all about how do we set this thing up? How do we set this thing up? How do we set up getting around those hard decisions? One of the things that we can do, we're going to talk about it a little more in detail, is understanding the objections. Okay, understanding the objections and having answers for those objections. We're going to go into that a little bit later, but we need to understand that. One of the other things is assertiveness. Okay, so there's a difference between being assertive and cocky. Okay, so we want to be assertive. And there's a couple of different ways that we can do that, verbally and non-verbally. Okay, but nevertheless, we don't want to come in there weak. We don't want to come in there looking like we can be taken advantage of. Okay, but at the same time, we don't want to go in there in someone else's house, sit down on the couch and kick our feet up like we own the place, right? There's a balance there. There's a balance there between us showing that we know what we're talking about, that we're professionals, and then someone who was out there just being a jerk, right? And we've all met those type of people. So understanding where that balance is key. So those are some of the key things that we need to hone into when we're talking about the skills that are needed in negotiations. All right, so here we go. We're going to talk about the 5 steps of negotiations. Preparation and planning. Preparation and planning. That all goes with preparation and planning. That all goes with your knowledge base. Whether or not you're wholesaling, whether or not you're fixing, flipping, and you got to negotiate with a contractor, whether or not you're doing an Airbnb property, you have to be prepared. All these times that you guys are showing up on these courses, all the times that you've gone through the modules over and over again, all the times that you've read over the contracts, read over the scripts, that is preparing you. It's just like, it's no different than an NBA player or NFL player or Major League Baseball soccer player going out there and practicing, preparing for the big game. Because now you're in the face of a seller, now you're in the face of a landlord, and it's time for you to perform. That is not the time for you to prepare, okay? Making sure that, I can't tell you how many times in the beginning where I got so excited, I'm rushing out the door, I get halfway down the street, or even worse, sometimes, like I remember one time specifically, went all the way down to Macon, which from where I'm at is about, or where I was at, was about 2.5 hour drive. I got down there for this appointment and I forgot contracts. Like, I was completely unprepared. I was so excited about getting the listing that I went all the way down there and forgot to print out contracts. Luckily, I had them saved on a Google Drive and I was able to go to like Staples or something and get them printed out. But going through that mental checklist and being prepared and planning out what's going to happen. One of the main things that I like to do before I pull up to an appointment is I like to mentally prepare in the car. So maybe I might stop right down, maybe a block down before I get to the house. Okay. And I like to mentally prepare. And what I do is, number one, I go through my checklist, make sure I have everything. Okay. Excuse me. Make sure I have everything. But the main thing I want to prepare for is my mindset. I want to make sure that I take the time to close my eyes and actually visualize me going through the entire process. This is super, super helpful if you don't do this on a regular basis. If you don't do this, if you're not going out there and you're not getting on appointments on a normal basis, right? You need to take the time to kind of calm your mind. You're nervous. You're going to be nervous, right? You don't know if, should I say this? Should I not say this? Take the time to calm your mind and visualize yourself walking through the property step by step. What are you going to do? The first 5 minutes, we're not talking about the property. We're trying to find something to latch onto to build rapport. Visualize yourself doing that. Visualize yourself as you're walking up to the property, right? Visualize yourself, going inside and sitting down with the homeowner, or walking through the kitchen. Like, see those moments all the way through until it's time to transition into contract time, until it's time to transition into getting that purchase and sales agreement signed. At that point, actually see what that looks like, understand and feel what that feels like. Okay. What we're doing, we're going to project this stuff out there because we want us, first of all, to be thinking about it. And the more and more we think about it, the more and more we attach feelings to it, the easier it is for it to actually happen in real life. Okay. So understanding that preparation takes also part with our mindset and how we take it into the environment with that homeowner inside their home. All right. All right, setting up definitions and ground rules. This is a really simple ground rule when it comes down to, some hardcore negotiations, business to business. There's some other things. Maybe there's some tempers flaring, so we got to set some definitions, and we have to set some ground rules. But really, here is the ground rule, right? The ground rule is the golden rule. We treat others how we expect to be treated, how we want to be treated, right? Very, very simple. We don't have to spend a whole bunch of time on this, but this goes. This is huge when it comes to building rapport. Okay, building rapport, because again, if someone passed away, we wouldn't want someone to blow that over and just go right into, oh well, tell me about the house, right? It's just being able to sympathize or empathize with people and be able to treat them fairly. And sometimes what that requires is for us to treat people even better than how they're treating us, because we might not walk away with a contract, but we're definitely going to walk away with experience. Okay. And we also would like to walk away with a good reputation, that even though they treated us like crap, even though they might have cursed at us, maybe even though they might have got upset, We don't know what kind of day they had. We don't know what's going on in their personal life. But only thing that we can do is take and latch onto that experience for our learning purposes, and also just make sure that our reputation stays intact as a good and reputable business women and men. Okay, so doing that. So be very clear on what's in it for them. Okay, be very, very clear on what's in it for them. So this is how one of the 5 steps is clarification. One of the 5 steps of negotiating is clarification. And one of those things is how we do that is being very, very clear what's in it for them first, and then for us. Putting them first, and then for us. So once it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier for us, for this whole process to go smooth, if we can grab their attention, and we do that by giving them or telling them what they want. We know what homeowners want, right? If they're trying to sell their property, they want the best possible price. But there's also other things that they want that they might not think about right away, like a smooth transaction. They might want speed. A lot of them do, especially if they're selling for a discount. So they might also want to be able to stay in the property for an extra month or an extra couple of weeks. Okay. Where's that going to come from? Where are we going to know that from? What? Active listening, right? We talked about in the beginning. Okay. But whatever that is, whatever information we gathered to come up with that speculation of what they want, we need to give that to them first. All right. That's going to clarify, add some clarity, not in the sense of, they're going to understand the contract, but what's going to happen is that once we get their attention, they are now listening to us. All right. Now they want to hear what we have to say, because we're telling them we're giving them what they want, or we're going to tell them what they're going to give them, what they wanted. Right. So in order for us to do that, we have to active listen. And then we also have to be empathetic so we can give them what they want. Then after that, then we have their attention. Then we can kind of go into what's in it for us. That's important. A lot of people don't realize that telling the individual, the homeowner, what's in it for you up front is key in also creating that bond there, building that rapport. Because if you're just saying, hey, this is what you're going to get, this is what you're going to get, you're going to get this, the person's natural reaction was, well, hold on, this sounds like it's too good to be true, right? There got to be a hook there. This must be a scam, right? So by telling them, hey, we're going to try to work it out so you get the best possible price, so that it's fair on both ends. We're going to get this thing closed up and wrapped up for you within 7 to 14 days. If you need a little bit extra time to get in and out the property, we can work that out. Don't worry about moving all the trash. We're going to take care of that for you. I'm giving them all the things that's good for them, right? And on our end, like I said before, we're going to take this thing. We're going to go ahead and either do those 3 things that we talked about: renovate it, flip it, make it look beautiful. We'll make some money on that end, rent it out for a long-term rental, or possibly pair up with someone else and they'll pay us a fee for it. But either way, the money is going to go into your pocket that we agreed upon. Fair enough? So letting them know what's in it for us up front, not letting that come back to bite us on the back end, so it looks like we're trying to hide something, and we look like we're being sleazy's car salesman, right? No offense to anybody who's a car salesman here, right? But that's what we want to do. So being clear on what's in it for them, all right? Bargaining and problem solving. Okay, so first things first. A lot of times we can, pretty much almost every time, there's going to be something that the other individual doesn't necessarily agree with. Very, very few times you're going to go in there and be like, everybody's just going to be happy, go lucky, and everybody agrees with everything. If that's the case, great, get the contract signed and get that thing moved. But a lot of times there's going to be some things that you need to bargain on. And when that happens, it's typically because of a couple of different reasons, right? There's some basic core common objections, right? So by knowing these common objections, what you can do is address them before you have to bargain with them, okay? It just makes it so much easier when you address them up front. So what is one of the biggest objections? Price, right? That price objection is a big objection. So there's a reason why we get the property for a lower cost in wholesaling. There's a reason why we're trying to rent out a property if it's for an Airbnb property, right? At a specific price point. Okay. So as it pertains to wholesaling, the trade-off for the price is condition and speed. Okay. And then you can add also third and ease of transaction, right? So those three things, condition, speed, and ease of transaction, is the value proposition. It's the switch. It's why we get that property for a lower cost. So if you in your head already know that one of the biggest objections, one of the biggest things that we have to bargain on is price, then we can address that before it becomes an issue. You're probably still going to have to address it again, and that's okay. That's fine. But if we can get ahead of the curve by addressing it up front, we're that much better off. So we know it's coming up. So a lot of times, Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner, a lot of times when we sit down with homeowners, one of the biggest things that is going through their head is whether or not they're going to get a fair price. And I, as a business owner, I love making sure that this is a win-win situation for everybody. So here's what we do as a company. We provide a fair price. It's a cash offer. It's something that you can say yay or nay to. You're 100% control of this. But what we offer is not just a good price, but we offer an ease of transaction, meaning that there's going to be very, very little headache. This is going to be a cash transaction, so you're not going to have to fill out a whole bunch of paperwork. We're going to be able to get this thing done in 7 to 14 days, which a lot of homeowners really, really love. All right. And we're not going to have to, you're not going to have to do a whole bunch to get this thing done. You're not going to have to be able to clean out a whole bunch of things. You're not going to have to worry about the condition of the property. We're going to take it as is, no contingencies. So when a lot of our homeowners see this, they're very, very much willing to negotiate with us and work with us on the price because they're getting the value that they're seeing the value that we're giving. All right. So that's an easy way of talking to someone and kind of getting ahead of the curve before you drop down that price of, oh, I'm only paying, $18,000. Okay. Because then you can always reiterate and come back to those three things that we've already talked about. You just have to know them in your head so you can make that script your own. Does that make sense? So we have to prepare, going back to that preparation, so we can make that our own. All right. Another thing that people sometimes again another time that some hold on one second. Oh, there we go. All right. Another thing that people object to is the in our contract us asking for a 10-day or any day inspection period. Okay, so knowing that again, what can we do? We can get ahead of the curve by prefacing, right? By giving them that information up front before it even comes down to it. So after we get through everything I just spoke to, Mr. and Mrs. Homebuyer, this is a really simple process. We're gonna go ahead and normally we do about a 7 to 10 day. We really like to be around a 10-day inspection period. That gives us enough time for us to get contractors in here, enough time for us to get architects. If there's any structural issues, our structural engineer, or anybody else that we might need to get into the property, because we want to close this thing in 7 to 14 days. What am I doing there? I'm giving the benefit to them, right? What's the benefit? We want to get this thing closed in 7 to 14 days. And we found through our experience that the more time we have access to the property to be able to do that, the easier it is for you to get your paycheck in 7 to 14 days, right? So again, is that fair enough? Does that make sense? Those questions right there, you take their mind off of that, and get them doing this, which is agreeing to, you saying yes. These are all things that we want to do. The more that we can get the person to say yes through the conversation, the easier it is for the yes when it comes down for them to sign the contract. If you can get them to say yes off these things, is that fair enough? The reason why I'm asking is that fair enough, and I say that so much, is because I know what just came out of my mouth was a fair question, because they have the option to say yes or to say no. So I'm not asking them, are they saying yes or they're saying no? I'm not asking that answer. I'm not asking them for the answer to whether or not they want to sell their property, yes or no. I'm just saying, is if the price is fair for you, if we can come together and agree on a price, could we move forward? Is that fair enough? So I'm just training them subtly to say yes. These are some of the arts of negotiation and building rapport, right? And going through this negotiation process. One of the other things that is something that we have to bargain with a lot of times, kind of goes with the inspection, but a lot of homeowners do not like to give up keys, okay? And in our contract, we say that they have to give up a key, because we have to, in order for us to have our 10-day inspection period, we got to get in and out the property, right? A lot of homeowners don't want to do that. So again, knowing this, what can I do? I can think of all of the problems ahead of time. Say, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, during our 10-day inspection period, a lot of times, sometimes things get rescheduled. You know how contractors are, right? They'll say they can come at 4, but they really can't get there till 6. And it's, in our experience, it's been a lot easier process to get through this situation and get you your money. If we can just put a lockbox on the back side of the house. We don't want to put it on the front side of the house, because we don't want to announce to everybody that the house is vacant. But we want to go ahead and put this on the back side of the house, and the only people that are going to have access to that is me and you. You'll have the access to the key, and I'll have access to the key, because I'm going to be the person here every single time when I need to get a contractor or maybe a partner inside the house to actually take a look at the property. Is that fair enough? Right? So again, hitting them with those same questions, right? So getting ahead of the curve, that helps us when it comes to bargaining. All right. All of these you can do by just explaining the process and understanding the process well enough. So when you understand the whole process, when you can visualize where you're going throughout this negotiation process, when you can visualize that ahead of time, this allows you to just move through this process fluidly, all right? So one of the two things didn't happen. If they don't agree with something, one of two things didn't happen. Both of them are your fault. You have to take ownership of this, right? If you get through this everything and they don't agree with you, and they're still trying to bargain, and things just aren't working out, and the negotiation process is just falling through, and nothing's working out, one of two things happen. Either you didn't explain it well enough, one of those things, you didn't explain and tackle and hit some of those objections before they became objections, or you didn't build enough rapport and they just don't trust you, right? One of two things. Either you didn't explain something correctly, or you didn't build enough rapport. Now, there's going to be a lot of times where you're going to leave a house without a contract. And it's going to happen, all right? But you still need to understand, no matter what happened, no matter if that person was angry, no matter if that person might have been, mentally disturbed, you still didn't do one of the two things. You still didn't build enough rapport with them, or you did not explain everything well enough to them. And so when you take on that mindset, you leave every single appointment with things to work on. How could I have done this better? How could I have switched this conversation? How could I have took this person's mind off of this, or addressed this issue before it became an issue? Okay. You never lose when you go on an appointment. You never, ever lose, unless you just walk out there with that losing mentality. But if you look at it from this perspective, you're always going to learn from every single appointment that you go on to, and you're going to get better and better. Okay. All right. One of the other things that we want to talk about is making sure, and I kind of really talked about it real briefly, but I want to give you guys a little bit deeper in depth talk on how to build this rapport, because it's such a vital thing, like I said before. And some of the things that you might see me do, I kind of sometimes now just do them naturally. And then there's certain things that maybe you're already doing that are good things, but there's some other things that maybe you're doing that are bad things that you just like, man, I'm not a people person, or I just can't get through to people for whatever reason. All right. So again, we've already hit this thing on the head. Rapport is so key, right? It sets the tone for the entire negotiation. It really sets the tone for everything that goes on after that point, right? If you can do this, like I said, I've told you guys before, I've had people that have gone with my offer, even though my offer was lower, just because they felt something better about me. They just like, man, I don't know what it is, but I really just want to work with you. I feel like you're trustworthy, and I want to go with your offer, right? Even though it might be a lower offer. Okay. Big thing again, remembering the golden rule, right? Treating them how we want to be treated. All right. The goal is, again, in the beginning, to find something to latch onto, to not talk about the property for the first 5 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to give you some ideas of what you guys can talk about. All right. That allow you to get into conversations that are not about the property. So here, they're not in any specific order, but you might want to write some of these down unless you just got a good memory, right? They're not in any specific order, but there are some that are really, really good ones to actually talk about. And there's some ones that are, that are okay. And obviously there are some ones that you want to stay away from. Okay. So number one, kids. Whether or not you have kids or you don't have kids, it doesn't matter. Because if you have kids, obviously you can immediately relate to that. Okay. You can immediately relate to that. If your kids are young and you have older kids, well, guess what? You remember when your kids were young, and you can latch on, and we can go into stories after stories after stories, right? But if you don't have kids, you probably have nephews, nieces, cousins, right? And if you don't have any of those, then I'm quite sure you have some stories about kids. You've all been to school. We're all old enough to at least have some stories about kids. Kids are a great way to latch on to someone, all right? Another one, sports. Man, it's painful to say. It hurts me, but I am a Giants fan. I'm a New York Giants fan. It hurts. Okay, I know it. Warren, shut up. Matter of fact, I should kick you off of this call. I know, man. My boys, I don't know. But even though I'm a Giants fan and I hate the Cowboys, so if you're a Cowboys fan, I hate y'all. We're going to talk about football, right? If that's something I see, if I walk into a house and I see a big Cowboys flag on their wall, and they got Cowboys helmet and everything else all around, Marvin, don't tell me. Marvin, you're a Cowboys fan? Oh, man. I can see this is going to be a rough one. Right, we're going to make light of it, right? We're going to get into that conversation, and we're going to bond about football or basketball or whatever, water polo. I don't care what it is, right? I've never played water polo before, but if I see that you're a water polo player, it brings up a very, very good conversation, because if you're playing water polo, there's not too many people to play water polo, number one, right? And if you find someone, they're probably pretty passionate about it, because they don't get to talk about it with too many people, because most people don't play water polo. So that's going to bring me to one of the best. Now, actually, I'm not even going to talk about that right now, because that's a bonus. But I'm going to show you how we can. Emmett Smith is the man, so I got to give you that. So he's also my frat brother. Sorry, that was maybe you guys couldn't see that, and you just think I'm talking to myself. That was a chat message that came in. But teaching is so powerful. It's such a good way. We're going to talk about that at the very end. All right. But sports, just know sports are good. Pets. If you see pets, right? Pets are another great way. People, man, there's some people that love their pets, their dogs and cats, more than they love their kids, right? So some of them rightfully so. Some of them kids be, but that's another story. So, being able to talk about pets. Now, if you hate dogs, guess what? You love dogs now if that homeowner has dogs, right? Like, we just got to find something to work with them. Places they've lived and places they've traveled. Places they've lived, places they've traveled, okay? These are ways that you can bond with people, because I've lived in a lot of different places. If I'm talking to someone that happens to live in, matter of fact, this happened with a property that we sold recently, and actually did this live call with them over social media. So I did an Instagram live while I was on the phone with this lady, and she lived in California. I don't know if everybody was on this call that heard that, but I did an Instagram live while I was negotiating with this lady over the phone. I knew I had to negotiate with her over the phone. I like to do it in person, but I knew she was not flying all the way from California to Georgia just so I could negotiate with her. So I had to do it over the phone. So I've lived in California. I lived in San Luis Obispo, right? Which is like Central Coast, California, okay? And so I was able to bond with her, even though she didn't live in San Luis Obispo. She heard of it. She knew where it was. And we were able to talk about the Pacific Coast and driving up Pacific Highway 1 and going up into Redwoods. Just find something to latch onto. That's places you lived and places you've traveled. If you walk in there and you see a whole bunch of photos and places that they traveled, that is a very, very good way to start building a rapport with them. It's very, very simple. Oh, where was this photo taken at? Oh, this was taken in Dubai. Really? I've never been to Dubai. What was it like? Building rapport, right? Another good one. And anybody who has been in it, I know we have a couple of people here who have, they will understand what I mean. The military is an excellent way to bond. And the military is an excellent way to build rapport. If you find that someone is in the military, I'm quite sure everybody on this call either has been in the military or knows someone who has, all right? So you can immediately start to relate through the military. If they've been to war, if that person that you've known has been to war, or the person has been to war, that is a great time to really, really be humble, and also really pay homage to what they've gone through, right? Because I personally was been in the military. I've personally been overseas. I know what it feels like. And so you want to be able, you like that feeling, number one, from my standpoint of someone saying, hey man, we appreciate your service, right? Same thing on the other end, right? You should always, always do that. It's a great way to build rapport. And hobbies. You go into the house, and the house is a mess. It's, kitchen's tore up, floors all tore up, carpet's messed up, holes through the wall. But in the garage, they got car parts everywhere. They got probably more car parts than what the house is worth, right? This person is a diehard motorhead, right? That's their hobby. Whatever it is, it might be like one guy. He was he did remote control airplanes, right? Probably had like $10,000 worth of remote control airplanes or more. I don't know, but it's a great way for me to get into that conversation, which brings me to the bonus. Okay, here we go. Water polo, right? The water polo incident or example I gave. The airplanes, right? Whatever it is, you go in there and you see like a whole hydroponic plant set up. Now, I ain't gonna say what type of plants it is. Whatever type of plants they are, they got a green thumb, okay? All right, whatever it is, find something during that course of that conversation, no matter if it's travel, no matter if it's kids, no matter if it's hobbies, find something that they can teach you about. This is a trick. Trust me, listen to me, okay? We've all heard this rule, right? It's better to give than to receive, right? When we give, just like I'm giving right now, I feel good because I'm giving you guys knowledge. I'm giving you guys a skill. I'm giving you something that I know that you can use, that you can take and earn money with, that you can change. One of the key things to help change your life. It feels good. That's why I don't have any problems doing this. I love doing this because I like to give. I'm giving something because it feels good. Now, while I'm doing this, I'm associating this feeling of giving, which is a good feeling. I'm associating that good feeling with Youssef. I'm associating that good feeling with Suzette, with Warren, with Ramona, with Ryan, right? I'm associating that good feeling with everybody on this call. The same thing that you're doing when you're sitting in with a homeowner and you're building this rapport, and you want them to teach you something because that's their version of giving you something, which is going to make them feel good because they feel like they've impacted you in a good way. And you want that good feeling to be associated with you. I don't know, man. I just feel good about you, Tommy. I don't understand. I just feel good about you, Drake, man. It's just a good feeling I have. They don't get it. They don't understand that you've been setting them up for this good feeling, right? You allow them to teach you something. So let's, we can pick, anything, man. The water polo. Really, water polo? What made you? I don't even know the rules of water. How do you play water polo? See how easy that is just to go into. Now they're teaching me the rules of water polo, right? Airplanes. I've flown an airplane before. To be honest with you, I crashed it. It was horrible. How did you get into that? And how do you set these things up? Do you build these yourselves? Is it a manual? Could you, if you were able to, could you kind of show me how this works? Someone who is into their hobby, if you ask somebody who's into a hobby, can you show them? Can they show you something? Oh my goodness, get prepared. You're gonna be there for a minute, right? You're gonna be there for a long time while they teach you this. And all they're doing is they're giving you something. They're giving you something, and they're feeling good about it. They like talking about it, and they're associating that good feeling with you. And that's what you want. Building rapport is not hard, but you just need to understand what you're doing. There's a reason why there are certain people that get deals done off of rapport than others. And if this can help you in any way, make it a little bit better for you, then man, use these skills. This rapport building is no joke, okay? All right, next thing, off of rapport. All right, we've all heard the old adage, what is it? In communication, verbal communication only takes up 7%, right? And then the nonverbals are the other 93, right? So I was actually doing some research on this. Like I said, I'm putting together this Airbnb course, and there's actually some recent studies that have kind of determined that that's not really true, right? Not because the person who did the study that originally wasn't a smart person. It's just that they were very, very select on some of the questions they asked and some of the conversations they had and the responses, right? What they found out is that a better depiction of it is that nonverbal cues, meaning your body language and your tonality, your voice, how you say certain things, is 12 and a half times more important than the words that you actually use. So either way, no matter, we can get into semantics, but either way, we completely understand that the nonverbal cues are far more important than the words that we actually use, okay? So that begs the question, how do we position ourselves? How do we use this knowledge to our advantage so we can be better negotiators, and so we can facilitate these meetings and lead them in the direction that we want them to go, okay? All right, so here we go. The four basics really of nonverbal skills. One of the things, so a while ago, a couple of years ago, most of you guys know I was a police officer, right? And when I came out of the police department, I decided, especially with everything that was going on in the world, and still going on in the world, being a Black male growing up in the United States and being a victim of police brutality and going through that is one of the reasons why I became a cop. I started to think about my own kids, right? And my own son, my own daughter, right? That are going to be going out there, right? As much as I love the police department, I do understand that there are some flaws, okay? And so this started me down the road of figuring out how can I position myself with some nonverbal cues to lower people's guard, namely in this particular case, when I was writing this book, lower a police officer's guard so they can see me as a non-threat, okay? And I did this purely for selfish reasons for my kids, but I feel like from all the places that I've spoken and the people that have read my book, I figured out that this really helps. One of the things that is hard to get over, right? One of those things that was hard to get over, and I did a whole study about it, is smiling, right? Smiling. Now, it's difficult to smile in a situation that might be a threatening situation, but through practicing that, I've been able to help young kids even smile through that, right? Not because they're happy about the situation, but because of what it does psychologically and through an individual's endorphins, right? This is like there's actual science behind smiling and what it does to people, not just mentally, but also through their endorphins, which controls their endocrine system and some of the things that the chemical reactions that we have in our body, right? God bless you, Ramona. During a stressful encounter, which some people might consider this a stressful encounter, a lot of times we forget to smile. And what that does, it's like a universal sign for the most part. There's some countries you're not supposed to smile, but there's like, for the most part in America, this is a very universal gesture that automatically starts to lower people's guard. It doesn't do it right off the back, but when you consistently use it and you use it in the right time, the right frame of reference, it starts to lower their guard. It starts to induce trust within the relationship, and it makes a person generally feel a little bit happier when they're dealing with someone who's smiling. This is so powerful. This is so powerful that even over the phone, if you smile with someone, the other person can typically receive it and understand and feel that you're smiling. If you don't believe me on this, try it. Get on the phone with someone and speak to them smiling. It sounds different, right? It just does. And so people can pick up on that over the phone. So they definitely are going to pick up on that when you're face to face. Smiling is one of the 4 basic nonverbal skills that we have to do. And you see, I have I don't care. I got a little gap right here. I don't care if your teeth are crooked. I don't care. Smile. All right. It's going to help you, because then you can get more money. Then you can go get your gap fixed and your teeth fixed and all that other stuff. Right. So smile. All right. All right. So proper handshake. Right. Man, this is my pet peeve. This is one of my pet peeves. You ever get like one of those like little limp little handshakes where they like, I don't know, it's like that guy off the Lord of the Rings. I feel like it's the guy off the Lord of the Rings shaking my hand, that Precious, that guy, right? And you feel like you shake his hands like this, right? Shaking someone's hand shows, remember we talked about one of those things that we want to talk about in negotiations, right? Assertiveness, right? But not being cocky. Now, not so much anymore, but I used to be, a pretty fit guy, and I used to get accused of squeezing people's hand too hard. So my guys, and some of you ladies, because some of y'all ladies be like, well, I got to show them off. So I'm going to really clamp down and put the vice grip on. Listen, it's just a firm handshake. It's not a, debilitating, crippling handshake. Okay. But there are some things that I want you to be aware of that maybe you do, and some things that you should stay away from. Okay. All right. Number 1, again, making sure that it's web to web. Okay. Making sure that it's web to web. All right. When we do that, we're going to get that good, firm handshake. One of the things I want you to stay away from, I call it the Donald, right? Stay away from the Donald Trump handshake. Okay. If you ever just pick up on this, right? The Donald handshake, he grabs the hand and he pulls people in, right? He used to do this on The Apprentice all the time. Okay. It was well before he became president, right? Shakes his hand. He shakes hand, and you'll see this. Just like when you see him as the president, when you see him going back and forth, look at it, right? He'll grab hands, he'll shake someone's hand, and he'll like jerk and pull them in. What that's a sign of, this is a whole science on this, right? What that's a sign of is he's trying to establish dominance over that individual. That's what that's saying. Just like shaking with your hand over top, right? You're putting over top. I'm over top of you. I'm shaking and showing that I'm dominant, right? These are things that you need to be aware of. Some people do this automatically, right? Some people are, you know, they're not aware they're doing. Some of them do it on purpose. If you're doing it on purpose, stop it. Okay, this is not the time. We are trying to build a relationship between us and the seller. We are not trying to overpower them. We want them to feel welcomed. We want them to feel that they're going to get a fair deal, not that you know, Trump Towers is coming in to take over their land and we're going to give them $1 for their property. Okay, so be aware of that. One of the things that I like to do, especially in the beginning and then definitely at the end, what I do is when I go to shake my hands, I'll kind of tilt and counter my hand to the towards the bottom, I guess as well. So their hands on top. So they feel like they're getting a good deal. It's basically what I want them to know. As they feel like they can trust me, and especially at the end when we and especially with me being a male and speaking with females, I want to make sure that they feel, because a lot of times there's you know, that male female thing where they see them like just like you know, we always hear like my mother when she went car shopping, she wanted a guy to go with her, right? Because she feel like most car salesmen are men, right, statistically, and men try to prey on the women, right? I said, oh, here comes a woman. She probably doesn't know anything about cars. Maybe she doesn't negotiating. This is not me saying this. So ladies, I don't want to hear no hate mail. This is, you know, perception, right? So especially with a woman at the end, I want her to feel like, you know what, I got a good deal. I put my hand on the bottom, their hand on the top. Okay. So they feel like, man, I got a great deal. This, at the end of the day, I feel dominant. I feel good about this process, this deal. Okay. Non-verbal cues. Okay. Body positioning. All right. We got a couple more left. All right. Body positioning. So when there is a time where we need to be assertive, there is a time where we need to be assertive, and there's a time when we need to kind of fall back. Okay. It's this give and take. If one person is always projecting everything, they're always dominating the conversation, right? Then it doesn't feel like a conversation, doesn't feel like a negotiation, it just feels like a dictatorship. It just feels like I'm telling you what we're going to do, and this is what's going to happen, and this is how long it's going to take, and this is how much I'm going to pay. No one wants to have a conversation like that, but there is a time for that, and then you need to be mindful of when to put that in place and when to kind of fall back and let the other person kind of take that role, okay? So here's one of the things that I like to do. I like to be upfront with someone, stand chest to chest with them, face them eye to eye, when I'm going over what in it for them and making sure that they feel comfortable. So again, talking about what's in it for them, closing quickly, getting the price that's fair, not having to deal with, you know, someone who's going to nitpick, you know, that there's a hole in the wall and this and that, right? All those things where I'm being open and honest, I like to put my hands up like this, okay? I like to put my hands up like this, and I like to stand face to them, because the nonverbal, a lot of people, we don't think about this consciously. It's the subconscious mind that picks up on this, right? When someone's kind of standing like to the side, right? You're here and I'm to the side, right? Which is there's a point for that. But at this point, it kind of feels like I'm hiding something, right? Just like if my back was to you, okay? When it's time for us to be upfront, well, we always want to be upfront and honest, but when we're giving them everything that we're going to do for them, okay, and making them feel good about it, I want to put my hands up to show what, right? That I'm being open and honest. Listen, what we're going to do is we're going to take care of all of the trash that's in there. You're not going to have to worry about picking any of that up. We're going to get this thing closed in about 7 to 14 days. Make sure you can say that confidently, right? We're going to get this thing closed in about 7 to 14 days. We're going to give you a price that both of us can agree upon, that's fair. I'm giving them all that stuff up front, and I want to do that facing them, okay? I want to do that face to face, eye to eye, but in a non-threatening way with my hands open. Okay, that's showing, that's just like, again, a subconscious thing that people will pick up on. Man, this person is like, I just feel like they're honest with me. They're not lying to me like the other wholesaler that came in. Okay, so body positioning, like I said, now when it's time to actually sit down, and fill out a contract, I don't like to be across from each other. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Okay, sometimes it's unavoidable. But I don't want it to feel like a boardroom meeting, right? I don't want to feel like, we're trying to take over, their business or their company, right? We want to sit shoulder to shoulder. This is a time for when we're going to go over the contract where I want to sit shoulder to shoulder, have the contract here in between us. And we feel like at this point, we're working together on this. This is not adversarial. This is me and you working together, and we're going to go through this contract line by line. I promise you, we're going to go through this thing until you understand it. Okay. And we're going to go line by line, side by side. So there's a time to be straight up with them and forward, and that projects confidence. It also projects honesty. And there's a time to do this, and it shows that we're working together with each other. Does that make sense? Okay. So these are things that we can do that can alter the person subconsciously to make them work in business with us. Okay. Next thing, mirroring versus projecting. Mirroring versus projecting. Some of you guys have heard of mirroring before, right? So mirroring versus projecting. Mirroring is if someone, like I'm a person, I like to talk with my hands. So if someone is talking with their hands and doing all this, then I'm just going to subtly, I'm not going to mimic them exactly. So if they raise their right arm up, I'm not going to raise my right arm up, right? But if they're talking with their hands, I'm going to talk with my hands. If they kind of have their hands to the side and their shoulders are slumped down, I'm going to kind of do the same thing. I'm going to bring my tone down. If they're really, really excited and they're talking really fast, well, I'm going to talk really fast. I'm going to say, hey, yeah, I can't wait to get into this property. I've been looking forward to this property the whole time. I'm going to mirror how they are. All right. This takes a little bit of practice, because normally we're wired one way. Right. Normally we don't have, like, I talk with my hands and I kind of talk a little bit fast. I'm from New Jersey, so we talk a little bit fast, right? So that's how I am. I normally don't talk very slow and drawn out. So if someone does that, especially like an elderly person, you don't want to be talking fast and moving all around real quick and moving back and forth in the property. You want to really slow it down, kind of bring your rate of speech down, kind of bring your tonality down, and take your time speaking with that elderly person. We want to really make sure that they feel comfortable, that we're not trying to pull something, pull the wool over their eyes or take their property from them. We want to really tone it down. So just like how I toned it down from how I was speaking really quickly, we want to mirror that individual. All right. Now, projecting or attracting, really, because you can do it either way, kind of goes into what I was talking about with our hands. But I went to a speaking course, a speaking seminar. And one of the things that, this guy, it was amazing. He had a whole, like I'm really summarizing this stuff. But one of the things that he talked about is drawing people in, okay? Drawing people in. So drawing that person into you, like making them want to feel comfortable with you and hear what you're saying. One of the things that we can do that is with that gesture of pulling in, okay? So he did this, and he did an example over the crowd, and we all kind of unanimously said, yeah, when the second speech, when he did this, we all felt more comfortable. We all felt more at ease, even though he said the exact same words. It was the gestures of bringing in, working together, right? You like thinking about what we're going to say. When I'm thinking about working together with a homeowner to get their property sold, I'm saying working together. I hope you guys can see my whole body here. I'm saying working together as I'm pulling them into this commitment that I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do, right? I use this all the time. I say, I really want this to be a win-win situation. Like, I think that this is the best situation for you. I really, really do. And I want to work with you, right? These little things of projecting honesty, projecting trustworthiness, projecting compassion, those type of things really work subconsciously. By using these nonverbal cues, we can start to alter a person's way a person thinks and perceives of us. Okay. All right. So that kind of wraps a lot of things up. We're going to go and try to do a quick little a 5-minute focus. All right. I want to do this with you guys real quick because I just want to give you an example because I want to set some homework. I want to set some things for you guys that I think you should be practicing with your spouse, your loved one. Maybe you got an appointment set up, practice it immediately with them. Okay. But I want to show it to you guys first. Okay. So let me get I don't care who it is, a volunteer that wants to be a seller. Wants to be a seller. Just go ahead and raise your hand or take yourself off mute or whatever.
Okay, this is Suzette. I'll be a seller.
All right, Suzette. Okay, so let's set the stage for this. Suzette is my seller. I'm the wholesaler. I'm trying to get this property under contract. And remember, what are we trying to do in the beginning? We are trying to not talk about the property as much as possible for the first 5 minutes. I'd say 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes sometimes because of time restraints. So if I set up this appointment and Suzette has to now go rush out and pick up her kids or has to go get dinner or something like that. And so we're rushed for time. I still want to establish some type of rapport, okay? But maybe I don't have the full 5 minutes. But in this particular case, and for the homework, I want you guys to try to do this for a full 5 minutes. So, Suzette, I can't really tell what's behind you. So I'm trying to.
The picture, the Lord is my life, is Psalm 27:1. So it's a picture of a house and it's a whole mural.
Okay, so cool. So, all right, so here's let me touch on this real quick. Unless you see something like this, obviously we all have heard of the things that you shouldn't talk about, right? Religion and politics, right? So, but I'm seeing this, and that's a Bible verse, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I see something like this, and you can connect with that, because you got a picture that I am now not sitting in my place, and I'm now in her house. So I walk in her house, and I see that beautiful picture there. That's something that I can connect on, correct? Like if that's my belief, which it is, right? So if that's your belief and you can connect on that, then that's something to connect on. So, all right, cool. So we came inside, we walked inside. Man, Suzette, that is a beautiful painting. What is that? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. Well,
hold on, Suzette. Let me start because I want to make sure that we're doing this right. Let me do this right here. Stopwatch. All right. So we're actually going to do this for a full 5 minutes. Okay. So we're going to show you how we can go from this topic to as many topics as I really want to lead, and how and depending on the time and how willing she is, right? In this particular case, you're going to be pretty willing. All right, Suzette?
Sure.
All right, here we go. All right, so we're going to start right now. Man, that's a beautiful painting, Suzette. What does that say? What does that say there?
Well, it's a painting that's a picture is really near and dear to my heart. It's a house, and behind the house, it has the Psalm 27:1 that says, "The Lord is my light." So it just, when I see it, it makes me feel, at peace and confident, and knowing that my house is protected and just my life is protected. So.
Wow, that's amazing. So you go to a church here locally, or?
Yeah, well, actually, we had this hanging up in my church. I'm the assistant pastor of my ministry, and my location in Jersey City, we had this hanging up. And we moved from that location, so I had an extra one, so I just brought it home.
Hold on, you said you're an assistant pastor in Jersey City?
Yeah, we had a ministry. My mom and I had a ministry in Jersey City. She's the pastor, I'm the assistant pastor, and we had that hanging up in our church. Yeah, so we had an extra one, so I decided to bring this one home, and giving me that positive message every time I see it.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing because obviously that, right? Understanding that you're assistant pastor, I guess I got to be on my best behavior now.
That's
But
okay.
also, but also, I didn't know you were from Jersey City. I'm actually from Jersey as well.
Yeah.
When did you leave Jersey City? Are you still there now?
No, I left Jersey City some time ago, but I used to live in the Greenville section,
Oh, okay,
uh,
okay.
by Ocean Avenue and the
Yeah,
Greenville
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hospital and all that. Yeah.
We actually used to play Jersey City when I was in high school. We used to go there and play football. I played football for Plainfield. I'm from Plainfield, New Jersey. Have you been there? You familiar with Plainfield?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Plainfield. I ran track against Plainfield back in the day.
Oh, so that means you must have lost. You must have lost. Our Plainfield girls track team was fire. Boy, there was nobody beating them. Did you tell the truth?
Uh,
Tell the truth.
Plainfield, I don't remember them as a contender.
Oh my God. I thought you were a church going woman. I thought you weren't going to lie. But here we are here lying already. No, but that's a real cool that's a coincidence. I didn't realize that you were from Jersey City. That's awesome. When was the last time you've been there?
Let's see. It's been about 2 years now, actually, since I've been in Jersey City, since we closed down that location and we moved in the ministry. But what I like with Jersey City, it's changed a lot because I grew up there,
Yeah.
and back in the days when they didn't have all that excitement going on downtown. Now downtown is just restaurants, and it's like a mini New York City now. You know.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so convenient, especially with the just the astronomical prices of what it costs to live in New York, to be able to just take the subway or take the path and get right over to the city. Is just really really convenient. I really miss Jersey. I don't really necessarily miss the cold. I don't know about you, but I miss being that close to the city, and there's no city like New York.
Right.
It's just an amazing time. Were you there for the holidays 2 years ago, or?
Well, with Jersey City, I saw a lot of the things going on downtown. When the holidays comes, there's always, well, I guess every major city, but in particular with Jersey City, being like you said, it's so close to New York. I can easily go down downtown Jersey City, and then go into the city, watch Rockefeller Center,
Yeah.
and all of that. So it made it convenient. But the interesting thing about Jersey City, or maybe the additional interesting thing about Jersey City, is the proximity to Hoboken, because with Hoboken now,
Yeah, it's
you
really nice.
know, back in the 80s and 90s, no people didn't used to want to say they were from Hoboken,
Yeah.
because Hoboken was like, like Fred Flintstone land, rocks.
Yeah.
We used to just nobody said that it was from Hoboken, not openly, but now Hoboken is the place to be as well. So there's a lot of activity going
That's
on
what
there.
what's that guy, the famous baker, like Carlo's Bakery or something like that. He was on TV. Like that.
Yes,
That's where his
yes,
bakery is at, right?
yes,
I've been there. I've
yes.
been there before. It's some fantastic, fantastic cannolis if you ever get a chance. I really enjoy speaking with you because this is amazing because I don't get to meet too many people that are from Jersey, especially from Jersey City, especially knowing that. But man, one of the things that I love about this business is getting to converse and just meet with just genuine people like yourself. And as much as I can sit here and we can talk about Jersey all day, I'm quite sure we can trade some stories back and forth. I really would like to see how we could work together, especially with us both being, native New Jerseyans, how we could both work together to come up with a win-win situation for your property. Does that sound fair enough?
Yeah, I mean, if as long your Jersey boy is a good boy,
All right,
so
perfect.
so we can work together.
All right, so we're gonna stop it here.
Yeah,
So we can see here 5 minutes 28 seconds, right?
right. Mm.
5 minutes 28 seconds. So just by practicing this, guys, like as you can see, who did most of the talking? It was her, right? I just kind of let it. I found one thing to latch onto, then I found another thing to latch onto, then I found another thing. Before you know it, we're talking about. If I would have just latched on the very first thing, I would have never known that she was from Jersey. And what's on that list? Places where you lived, places you've traveled to, right?
Right.
So these are things that we can do, and I want you guys to do. I want you guys to practice this over the next week, finding, and don't tell them. Just just start doing something. Just start talking with someone. If you can start doing this with total strangers, like my kids hate me because I'll just start talking with total strangers, right? And we'll get into a conversation, but I'm just using them for practice. That's all I'm doing, right? I'm just using them for practice because I need to get good at this. Like, this is a skill that if you don't use, just like if LeBron James ain't out there shooting, if Tom Brady, as much as I hate him, is ain't out there throwing those passes, right? He's just not going to be good, right? So if we don't practice this thing, you're not going to be good at it. And then when it's time for the real deal, when it's game day, you're going to wonder why, oh man, I was so nervous. I just kind of fell apart. I was sweating and I couldn't find the next thing to talk about. It's because you didn't practice, right? So just want to give you guys that as an example. We're going to open this up for a very, very quick amount of time because I have to get on the road here. I was supposed to be in New Orleans, that didn't work out too well because of the storm. But I got to get on the road here shortly. So I want to open this thing up for some Q&A if anybody has any questions. No questions. Okay. That works for me because I can get on the road quick. All right. Well, let me just make sure. Let me slide through, make sure no one else. Let me go to the chats because sometimes I forget about that. Jay said he's a Knicks fan. Oh, bro, y'all ain't had. And you know what's crazy? I used to be a Knicks fan. I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't.
I have a question. It just came to my mind. Real quick question. What if you go into a house and you get the feeling that, the husband and wife or whoever, they're having a difference of opinion or something ain't right in the house. You just feel that the energy isn't right. What would you do?
Yeah. So if you go into the house and it's like, man, maybe they just got into an argument or this is not going to be a good time. I mean, you're there, right? You've made the trip. So you can try. I personally have never had that happen, but you can try to get things going because you just never know. One thing that Tony Robinson Sr. says, he says, never think for the seller, right? Never think for the seller because they might be going through it because they're going through a divorce and they need to sell the property and they just got into an argument, right? But you thought for them, so you're like, oh, I'll just come back because there's something don't feel right. And not knowing that they really need to sell this property and they got 2 more people coming to see their property this week and you just gave up that time. So try to go through it, try to make it work, and then just see where it lands you, Bears down, Chiefs. Okay. Okay, Justin, I appreciate you, fam. You understand the pain. So he's a Giants fan, Falcon fan. So yeah. All right. Where do you sit when filling up the contract if it's a couple? Good question. So typically, you still want to have them sitting. You want to have them sitting together. So if it's like husband and wife, I ain't sitting in between them, right? Because I'm not trying to divide that, right? But we're always going to, and it's not always the male, right? Sometimes we have to make sure that we're cognizant of this, that it's not always the man that's leading the charge of whether or not the house is going to be sold or not. So don't automatically just assume that's a huge mistake, right? When you just start talking to the guy and you just completely exclude the lady, right? So whoever is the decision maker, you'll be able to find that out or figure that out throughout this, especially if you're building rapport. You'll be able to figure that out. Someone will be at the forefront of the conversation, talking and asking more questions. The other person will kind of fall back. So typically what happened is when it comes time to that decision time, the person who is the decision maker, the person who's kind of like the catalyst of that, they're going to sit closest to you, and then their significant other is going to sit next to them, and you'll be on the outside. All right. So let's say me, then whoever that lead person is, and then the other individual there. So I'm not going to be in between them. I'm still going to be side by side with just one individual. It's a good question. Bring the same energy. Cool. Yes, do have a list of do's and don'ts. And we're going to put this on the thing. Guys, I appreciate your patience. All these videos are getting uploaded to the actual course. So as long as you have people are in the course, they'll have access to this. When am I going to be in Baton Rouge? I was actually supposed to go to New Orleans. I was supposed to, my Airbnb got canceled because it was right there in the Ninth Ward. And Carla, no, I can't hear you if you're speaking. I saw your message though. How can I find the information on property if the tax lien has been sold? How can I find information on property if the tax lien has been sold? So it's still recorded. It just might not be updated. So sometimes the county takes a while to update the actual website, but it's still going to eventually be recorded. So if that tax lien has been sold and you are in a lien state, the original owner is still going to be the tax owner on record, right? But if you're in a deed state where they immediately get that deed once they purchase, then there's a chance that it can be updated. Depend how fast that is completely up to the county and whoever puts that information in there. So I bought a property in Macon. And it was like almost a year later before they updated, like that I was on the county website, who was the owner of record, right?
Okay.
So
essentially what I'm going through is went and did a site visit today basically with someone that I'm going to get on contract. And she says, really, she doesn't know what's going on with the property. She's in a different state and it's been broken into a bunch of times. And so I wasn't able to get really on the inside of the property, but from the outside, it looks good. And she said she actually renovated it right before she left to go out of town. It's an older lady. So I was just trying to figure that out. How can I get it on contract without knowing that information in full?
Well, she's still the owner, right?
Correct.
Did it go up for tax sale?
Yes, recently, actually, within the last week or so, our auction was, I want to say.
What state are you in?
Last month. I'm in Illinois.
Illinois. You
Yep,
know if you guys
Chicagoland area.
You tax lien or tax deed state?
We are lien. It's a hybrid, but where I'm at, it's lien. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a right of redemption period for her, I'm assuming? Okay,
yes.
So he still has rights to that property, right? So you just got to go down to the courthouse, find out what the bids are, or maybe she might have to do that. I don't know. Every county is a little different what information they'll give to you, but she has a right of redemption period. She has the right to know how much she would have to pay in order to get her property back. Okay, and so that would be that's one of the strategies that I like to use, is because they're at that point, they now have to pay just to get their own property. So let's just say they have to pay $25,000 to get the rights of their property back, and you've done the research and you're like, man, I could sell this property for 50. You can now potentially turn something where they would have to pay $25,000 out of their pocket to, man, I can get you, I'll pay off that $25,000 that you owe, or that's the investor purchased your property for, and I'll put $10,000 in your pocket. So now you're all in it for 25 plus the 10, 35. And now you've done the research and you realize you can sell it for 50. I'm just giving you that as an example. So obviously this only works if the deal makes sense. But the moral of the story is that if you are in a hybrid state or a tax lien state where there is some time, you have a right of redemption period, you can always, either you or the original homeowner can always find out what it's going to cost to redeem their property. They can't hide that from them.
Okay.
It just depending on whether or not they're going to tell you that, or whether or not they're going to have to tell her.
Okay, which may be my issue since she's in Arizona. But all right, thank you.
Yeah, but she can still call down and just verify who she is, and then get that taken care of.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem, man. No problem, Duke. Appreciate you, brother. Where can I find your ringless voicemail drop example? Is that in there? Is that in the course? I don't think it's in the course. I'm gonna have to add that. I didn't think about that. Hey, we had like 10 months. I didn't think about that there, Logan. It's a good example. I mean, good idea. Yeah, I'll add that into the course, into the download section. Yeah, that's dope. All right, cool. Let's make the course a little bit better. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here, and I got about a 5-hour trip, so that's always fun, but it'll be worth it. So, all right, you guys have a blessed one. Love you guys. Hope you guys learned something, and let's go out there and let's kill it. All right, peace.